What is up, bitches? So I am ready to tell this story to you. I actually did this video yesterday and I took a dab right before, and the story just was not it. It was not. I kept saying a lot, so I'm going to try my best. Just kidding. To not say a lot. To not say at all. Today we're going to talk about what happened to Dorothy Eggers. This took place, already started off unbelievable. So this took place January 2nd, 1946. And you know what? I'm going to leave this out because, yeah, I didn't memorize everything, okay? I know the gist of the story. Alright. That's all that matters. So, January 2nd, 1946, two people are driving around Waterman Canyon, which is located in San Bernardino. If you don't know where that's at, that's in California. I guess near Southern California, you would say. So two people are driving and they're like, their car starts overheating, so they have to pull over. So they pull over and they're like overlooking the view, looking over the canyon, whatnot. And while they're overlooking, out of nowhere, they see, I'm pretty sure this changed, like affected them big. This would affect me, but they found a body wedged in the rocks basically. And so they call the cops, and the cops get there. They basically find it's just like feet that's sticking out. It's a body that's wrapped around in a blanket with rope, and like just the legs are sticking out. And whenever they undo the blanket, they find a body that has no head and no hands. Very disgusting. I can't believe somebody would do that. Like, I can't even fathom being the person having to unwrap, and all the people that had to see this body and the person it happened to. Like, it's just insane. They found that she had a bullet hole that went through her chest, and there was another one that went through her arm to the side of her torso. She also had a scar, a unique scar on her leg, and she had intense bunions. Really, really bad bunions, to the point where they were like, okay, she probably would have had to see a doctor for this because of how intense they were. So they were just trying to, figure out ways to identify her, She was shot by a .38 caliber revolver, and they estimated that she's between 35 to 40 years old, and that she's probably 5'7", 5'8". So the cops were basically assuming the person that did this probably wasn't from the area, because if you were from the area, you would know that's not a good spot to put a body. And because there's a lot of traffic and people going in and out of the area all the time, so you think you would just know. And apparently when word gets out about this body, people are making appointments to go see this body. They're like, hey, I heard that you had a body with no head and hands. Can I come check it out? Like, multiple people. It's like really weird. 40s people were really weird. There's two police stations in that area, and the other one, they got an interesting visit from a man named Arthur Eggers. He had reported his wife missing, Dorothy Eggers. He said that she probably ran off with a guy, and that she was having numerous affairs. Like, she was very open about it, and he knew about it. So he was like, yeah, she probably, ran off with him, but I haven't heard from her since December 29th. And then he listed her, you know, they were like, okay, what does she look like? And he was telling them, and he said that she was 5'2". And strange thing, cops thought it was really strange because Arthur was a cop, like not a cop, he was a clerk at the station. So like they knew of him. His father was, he used to be a sheriff there. So they're very familiar with him and Dorothy. They knew about her marriage, that she was very bubbly, outgoing. It seemed that she was getting like bored with, you know, her hubby. And he was very quiet and shy. And yeah, they were super confused about her height because they've seen her in person, and they're like, she's definitely not 5'2". And I feel like that's a big difference, like 5'2" to 5'7", like that's a big difference, sir. But Arthur was like, well, that's my wife, so I would know, so don't question me. Like, he's playing dumb. Okay. So basically, at this point, they need to ask him, like, okay, like, hey, we found this body. Like, do you think it could possibly be her? And he says no, because he went to go see the body, and that he made an appointment. And they were like, you made an appointment? And he was like, I made an appointment. And they were like, well, where did you make this appointment? And he said it was in the sheriff's basement. And they're like scratching their heads because the body hasn't left. Like the body hasn't been to the sheriff's basement. So they go and talk to the coroner, and they said that said that it definitely wasn't her, and that he was very cold and casual about it. He had like no emotions, no sympathy, and that he was basically just pacing back and forth and left. Like, it was really fucking weird. So the cops at this point, they're like, okay, this sounds very fishy. We're gonna start an investigation. So they're starting an investigation, but they're playing it cool with him. They're acting like he's their buddy, whatnot. But everybody knows basically that she was having affairs, that he couldn't control her. They talked to, you know, their friends, and all their friends insisted that she was definitely 5'7". And the last time that they heard from her was also December 29th, and that she was supposed to go see somebody for her spine. So now they know that she has a spine problem too. And apparently Dorothy had recent surgery on her feet for severe bunions. What a coincidence. So the cops, they go ahead and find these doctors that did these surgeries and stuff. They go and see the body, and they both were like, yeah, like, I did this work on her. Like, I recognize obviously the body's different. They recognized the body as much as they could, and they both said that yes, this was Dorothy. So now basically the police just need proof at this time. So on January 19th is when they get some info. So Arthur had sold his car to a deputy. It was a 1940 sedan. And Arthur is so stupid. Like, why would you sell? So this car that he sold, he said that it was his car. It was actually Dorothy's car. And they took it in for evidence. He sold it to a deputy. And yeah, he had said, and there was a woman in the car when he was, giving him the papers and everything. And the deputy was like, hold on, I'm sorry, my throat is like, oh my god, right now. But yeah, so he's like giving the guy this car, and he sees a woman in the car, and he's like, who's that woman? And he's like, oh, that's my wife, Dorothy. But when they did this was like after Dorothy was already dead, so it wasn't Dorothy. And later we find out that it was actually his niece. So he had adopted his niece. Her name is Mary. And he had basically was like forcing her to sign, like forge the signature. I don't know why I can't talk. And that's who was in the car. The car goes to the crime lab. And then they found that the car was like thoroughly like cleaned, but not that clean because they find type A blood, which is what Dorothy had in the trunk. And then they go to Arthur's house. They're trying to find his gun. He has the same gun that she was shot with, that was found in her body or whatever. And they can't find the gun. They find blood, type A blood, in the bathroom, in the bathtub, and on his clothes. So they find it like a few places, you know what I mean? They find out that he donated her clothes, sold her rings, and he said that he did it because he thought if the cops found the stuff, that the cops would be suspicious. Like, that doesn't make no sense. Like, you live with your wife, sir. Like, her stuff would obviously be at home. Like, why the fuck are you gonna... He said that he donated her stuff because he wanted her shit out of the house because she was probably just off with another dude, you know? So they finally get to show him, like, a photo of his wife and, well, how she is now. And he was like, well, that certainly looks like Dorothy. That certainly looks like Dorothy. No, it certainly doesn't, sir. He admitted to lying about viewing her body because he thought nobody would look into it. Like, this guy just thinks, like, nobody's... He just thinks he's invincible. I don't know if he does crack or what. He said that it was probably one of her lovers, and that quote said, I wouldn't hurt a hair on her head. I wouldn't kill her. I wanted her to raise the kids. How romantic, how sweet. That is so sweet. He needed her to run the house. So this guy is like, you know, like, put him to jail, throw away the key. But they can't get him for anything besides grand theft for forging Dorothy's signature, because apparently when he was forcing his niece to do it, she was getting like really nervous, and he was like, fuck it, I'll just do it. The next day Mary goes to visit him, hoping that he'll like to admit to things, and she's telling him like, hey, like, I know, like, I saw the blanket that she was wrapped in. That blanket was on my bed. She's like, I know that blanket. And he basically called her a liar, and he was just not confessing to anything. He took a polygraph test. They couldn't even read those results because anything he would say, his name, his age, it just would all inconclusive. So finally, this one dude, his name's Robert Jones, he used to work with his father, and like, he knows him too. He's a retired deputy. He basically, you know, he tells Arthur, he's like, I believe you're guilty. He says, just confess, just confess, just tell everybody what you did. And that's basically all it took for Arthur. He like broke down, and then he confessed everything. I mean, it's not like he needed to. They had enough proof, but it's like, dude, at this point, Jesus. So he said basically December 30th, he came home to a man leaving, and Dorothy was in the bed naked. She had told him that I'm leaving you for Bob. She called Arthur a cheapskate, and she said, what are you going to do about it, you insect? Next time I insult somebody, I'm gonna call them an insect. He told many different stories, like, throughout the whole he told many stories, and that was like probably the only thing that kept staying the same. So that one probably is true. He said once she said, "What are you going to do about it?" and said that they basically fought to the bathroom and he hit her in the face and she fell in the bathtub. He was stunned. He ran to the bedroom. And he said, "I got my gun, shot her twice. I then loaded her to the back of the car and cut her up. I didn't cut her up to avoid ID. I cut her up because I was so fucking mad. I wanted to cut her all to pieces, but I didn't have time." He said that he kept calling Dorothy and referring to her as the body, like totally disregarding her as a human being. He said that he threw the head and hands out the car, like he just tossed them out the car. That didn't happen. He said he got home, picked up the cartridge jackets off the automatic, one in the bathroom and one in the hall, and he went to sleep. I woke up and cleaned everything and went back to work. I guess I didn't do a good cleaning. Guess he didn't do a good cleaning because he got fucking caught. Like, you stupid son of a bitch. Then later he said, "Well, if I was trying to conceal her identity, I would have cut off her fucking feet. Because those bunions, anybody could recognize those feet. I would have liked to burn her, but you can't burn a body without a head, can you? Huh. I'm glad I got that off my chest. I feel better." Quote. This guy makes me sick. I hate this guy so much with everything. So after he had said all of that, he was like, "I'm going to cooperate with you guys and I'm not going to fight you on this." So they're like, "Cool." But then he's like, "Nah, my confession's going to change," saying that after she called him an insect, he went to go shoot Bob, but she fought him and she fell on the gun and it went off twice. I was trying to shove her away and she was trying to pull me and we both fell in the bathroom and the gun went off. So he said he didn't know what to do, so that's why I cut her up so she wouldn't be ID'd. And the cops were like, "Alright, well, you were just talking about her bunions earlier, like her about being identified. You tried to identify her, why didn't you cut off the bunions?" He's like, "Oops, guess I forgot." So the cops ended up taking him to the spots where he had left things, but right before he was going, he said he was really hungry, and he ended up, like, I don't know, just grubbing the fuck out after he just admitted to brutally murdering his wife. And I don't know why these cops are feeding him in the first place. So he showed where he threw the gun, which had his initials on it. They also found the saw that he used to cut her up, and it still had flesh and bone still on it. And while they're like doing this, they have to take photos of evidence, and they say that he's like posing for the photos, and he's like telling the cops like, "Hey, like, get in this one." Like, he's being a total, I can't even tell you, he's being, I can't even talk right now. So he does all this, right? He's showing them everything where it's at, and he, out of nowhere after that, he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "No, I didn't do it." He goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "You forced me into confessing into something I didn't do." And he wouldn't tell them where the head and hands were. He was just basically fucking with them. Like, he would be basically having them go down rabbit holes and be like, "Oh, I put it here and there." And like, they obviously would have to go check, because obviously they even have Boy Scouts that were volunteering. Like, Boy Scouts were looking for a head and hands. I'm sorry, but my kid is not participating in this event. Like, what the fuck? they checked the fireplace because he said they burned them, but they couldn't find evidence. And he was like, yeah, because she had dentures, dum-dum. He said, no one in this world will find my wife's head and hands. I swear by these upraised hands that no one will ever know what I've done. Like, he's just a fucking asshole. It's just like one big fuck you to Dorothy, because it's like you already got caught. Like, why not say where it's at? For the sake of the family. Like, for the sake of Dorothy. Like, it's really fucked up. So he would say all this, but then he would be like, oh no, I didn't do it. Like, this guy was just mental. There's just like a random fact, but during the trial, he had a sister and she had died of a heart attack, and literally 5 minutes after, her husband dropped dead. If that's not freaky, I don't know what is. So the next day he said, yeah, he didn't kill her and that she saw herself. He tried to plead guilty, not guilty for reason of insanity. He had this douchebag attorney named James Stewart, and he said that she was a headless and handless and no real proof that it was her, and said it could be a headless horseman of Sleepy Hollow. Obviously nobody listens to this guy, so it doesn't work. In front of the jury, he said he didn't do it. The body isn't hers and she's still missing, and the cops are blaming him. And that he's not going to pay for the funeral expenses because that's not her, that's not his responsibility. May 6, 1947, he looks nervous as fuck, said that when this happened that his nieces were home, but there's proof that his nieces were at the movies at the time. And he actually had 2 nieces that he adopted. And there was 2 of them, and yeah, he actually had put Dorothy's dead body back in bed because when they came home, they said that she saw her sleeping in bed, but she was already pronounced dead at that time. It was just some really sick shit. There's just like so much evidence they have against him. So first they have the doctors, okay, verifying that it's the body. They had the blood in the trunk, the tub, his clothes. Oh, by the way, he tried saying that the blood that they found in the bathroom was food coloring, and that they got in a fight one day and that they were squirting food coloring at each other in the bathroom. I bet those people in the room were like, yikes. Oh no, he did not. Like, what? Food coloring, dude? Come up with something better. Fuck. And, the nieces gave him up, saying that, she forced him. He was trying to force her about the signature. She said that the blanket was hers. And it's so sad. Like, that girl, she didn't even know that she was adopted. Like, all this is going on. And she basically finds out, like, through the news. Because they never told her. Like, it's just really fucked up. Neighbors said that on January 3rd that they saw him cleaning his car vigorously, and the attorneys basically just blamed Dorothy. James says, in quote, our evidence will prove Miss Eggers was a domineering, forceful woman who was not adverse to attending dances alone, picking up strange men for a long time. Eggers heard rumors that his wife's unfaithfulness. When he saw this with his own eyes, the truth of the rumors, there was a blinding flash in his mind, and he grabbed the gun to defend the sanity of his home. In the struggle, Miss Eggers, who was strong physically, was accidentally shot. Then Brother Arthur comes to the stand and said he had a very happy marriage until a couple years ago, when she's going through the change of life and she's a real pain in the ass. Oh, I'm sorry. Your wife is going through menopause, you piece of shit. And then after she was going to dances, and then the day she went missing, he found his wife in the bedroom nude, and he was going to stop such goings, and he got his gun from his dresser, and that she pushed me into the bathroom, and we both fell, and the gun went off. Next thing I know, I'm crying, and I heard voices. All of a sudden, he hears voices. He said he goes in the car, and somebody else is in the car saying she's in the back. I stopped the car and checked the trunk, and it was empty. I thought it was all a bad dream, and I go home and she was gone. And then after, he basically blacks out. Sorry about that, my camera died. But where do we leave off? So then, yeah, he goes and quote, but that body I saw in San Bernardino was not my Dorothy. His attorney, James, then has a surprise witness. And this witness said the night her body was found, a man came across had bloody hands. Like they saw a man that night with bloody hands in the area, and so everybody is like, what? And so then this other guy comes to the stand, and his name is Fred, and he basically tells them, like, I got married, we had the cans on our vehicle, basically cut my hands trying to get it off, and there was proof that he was at his wedding at the time. Like, there was so many witnesses to say that they saw him there. So that was shot to hell. Arthur was basically found guilty of first degree, not basically, he was found guilty of first degree murder. The jury asked if he could get life with parole without the death penalty, and the judge said no. He had a new jury to see if he was sane, and he was declared sane by 3 different doctors. And the jury sentenced him. Oh wait, sorry. So the jury said, yeah, he was sane. So did the doctors, and then he was sentenced to the gas chamber. He was sentenced to the gas chamber. His sister tried to fight for him really hard, and they're like, okay, we're gonna make him an offer. Maybe he won't get the gas chamber if he will tell us where the head and hands are. And he still did not want to fucking tell them where the fucking head and hands are. He's in prison, and he just keeps changing his story a million times. He just can't seem to tell the truth ever. He never admitted to telling the truth, and then finally, October 15th, 1948, in San Quentin prison, he's in the gas chamber, and his last words, shot her, I may have, but I never cut her up. He had one last thing to say to this world, and he decided to say that, and he decided to say a lie. Like, this man is just a piece of shit. Yeah, that was the story, the horrific story of poor dead Dorothy. I feel so sorry for her family. I'm just like, that should never happen to anybody. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a cheater. Like, obviously don't be a cheater, but like, that doesn't mean you deserve that to happen to you. Like, just leave her. You psychopath. What the fuck is wrong with you? I hope you guys have a good night. Lock your door